I'm looking for Diane.
Diane.
Okay,
well, let me do the roll call in Diane's absence.
Well, Diane is right here if you want her to start.
Oh, yeah, we're there.
Okay, if everybody can hear me, Commissioner Croon,
Present.
Commissioner Pulowski,
Present.
Commissioner McKay,
McKay,
It's Mackey, the present.
Commissioner McLeod,
McLeod,
I see him there.
He's on mute.
yeah,
Is the conference room microphone out to lunch?
Present, McLeod.
Commissioner Mailer,
Present.
Commissioner Thompson,
Thompson,
Thompson, that's me.
Commissioner Ward,
Aye.
is that it?
And Brad, we got a previous, and you got the emails too, Garrett and Simon begged off today. They had conflicts. So, but you have a quorum still.
Well, I beg to differ if it's a conflict, if Hawaii is a conflict.
Well, if I don't call it a conflict, I'm going to get jealous.
Yeah, okay, all right. Who else do we have online here for introductions? Anybody? Outside the port staff?
This is Alex Slifka. I'm the Chief Fiscal Officer for the municipality, and I'm just listening.
Hey, Alex.
Mr. Chairman, this is Aves. Am I on?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, great.
We have audio only. Are you videoing in or just doing audio?
Well, I thought I was.
Well, so far we hear you anyway, and you can hear us, so that's good.
Okay, that's a start.
Okay, anybody else outside the port staff?
This is Stephanie Kessler. I'm on.
Oh, hey, Steph.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back. Good to see you.
Hi, Steph.
Anyone else?
This is Bart Vissler with NOAA's Office of Coast Survey.
Welcome.
And this is Hadley Owen, also with Coast Survey. I'm stepping into Bart's role.
Oh, very good. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
I don't know if Bart explained, I'm a retired NOAA officer. This is Bob.
Oh, very good to know. Thank you.
And I don't see anybody else on the participants list who's here, who was invited, who is here or otherwise here. So I think roll call is finished.
Okay, well, we have port staff. I guess anybody outside who's on for the port there, Steve? You can just list them off.
Okay, Steve Rebuffo, Port Director.
Sharon Walsh, Director of the Modernization Program.
Cheryl Beckham, Port Finance.
Jim Jager, a bunch of things.
Blaine, I'm the engineering manager for the port.
Shannon Martindale, Ops and Maintenance Superintendent.
And Diane, we know she's here.
And Paul Rotkus ought to be out there as well.
Okay, if that's everybody, we'll go into the safety moment if Paul is available.
Paul does not appear to be online at this moment.
Okay. Anybody want to take for a safety moment? Otherwise, I would just note that there's seems to be a lot of angst and depression out there with COVID, and I don't know how you guys are doing with your loved ones and whatnot, but
Let me look.
I encourage you to reach out. And maybe safety, but it is people lose focus with all the distractions of the virus and all the impacts. You know, I hope you're all doing well and your family's doing well. And I think it's important that, you know, we think about reaching out to those that are elderly and whatnot. I'm taking a moment to fill in for Paul here, Steve, just kind of calling out mental health, I guess, during COVID and people being locked in and whatnot. So I know there's help out there, but just wanted to note that we're all in this together and we're all going through it. So do we anticipate Paul joining us for a safety moment, or?
Well, I just went ahead and sent him a tickler to join us.
Ah, okay.
This is Bob. Let me share. We are seeing some really crazy drivers
Hey, Val.
because they are
I don't even
have been
see
locked up or whatever. So just be really careful on the roads and the parking lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would agree. There's some angst out there, isn't there? Well, how about approval for the agenda while we're waiting on Paul?
Yeah, this is quite the pregnant pause, isn't it?
This is Jim. Steve, we appear to be having an issue. I'm going to restart the meeting because I think there are several people, probably including Paul, in the waiting room.
Yeah, Bow Dreyfus is just called me that he's trying to get in as well, and I don't even see him on
Okay.
the participants list.
All right, you guys stand by and I'll be back on letting people in just a moment.
Okay.
So are we standing by or leaving the meeting?
I think we're standing by.
Yeah.
Okay, and Steve, I wanted to point out, I see Anna Henderson just joined us as well.
Hey, Alex, are you trying to get in? Yeah, stand by because I think we're restarting the meeting. You're not alone. Okay? Okay, thanks.
All right, well, for some reason, Steve, can you look on your participant list?
Yeah, I'm about to, because I just got a phone call from Alex Hofling, who is also trying to get in.
For some reason, it's not showing anybody on mine is in the room.
No, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing anybody else either. Let me,
Oh, I think Shannon may have just figured it out. We may have two different meetings going on.
how's that happen?
There was a in the way this thing got set up. Can I, if I resend, can I ask everybody to log off and then log back? I'm going to send out a new invite so that everybody will log. No, that's not going to work. Don't do that. I'll go into the other meeting. Just sit tight. I will go into the other meeting and ask everybody to sign on this login.
Okay.
I'm sorry, if you can just go into hold for a moment.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. The modern era.
Ain't technology great?
But in the meantime, why don't we not waste the time of everybody who signed on in the right meeting? And we can start, we can skip the port director comments if you don't mind, because Paul needs to be available to do that part. But we can go to Sharon's report. Since we got all the commissioners in the right place, let's go ahead. This is your meeting, and get started on the informational matters.
Well, let's work towards the approval of the agenda. Get that knocked out there. Do we have a motion?
Dave, so moved.
Second?
Second, Ron.
Okay. So we got approval of the agenda. Now, how about the September 30th, 2020 meeting minutes, please. A motion to approve or amend?
So moved, Ron.
Second, Andy.
Okay, moved by Ron, seconded by Andy. So the September 30th, 2020 meeting minutes are up. For purposes of time here, Paul is not amongst us yet. Is that right? For the safety moment, I'm just going to check one last time for to Sharon. Can you please give us a presentation on the port modernization program here?
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. We call it the beauty shot. It's about a month ago. And it's towards the very end of the concrete pour on the placement on the platform. And we're very happy to have the 2020 work substantially complete. Out there today, you'll see the site is pretty well buttoned up, and we're preparing for next year's, which is the mooring and breasting dolphins, all the bells and whistles that go on the platform. So the temporary trestle, you see where that crane is sitting, that's gone. And it's right now exactly what we thought we'd have, a naked platform and trestle. So I enjoy seeing this. We haven't already. What on the 2021 work, we're in the preliminary submittal paperwork and so on, getting the contractor underway. They have gun fabrication in T. Bailey, the same people that built the piling, fabricated the piling for what you see in front of you, is working on the big stuff, the 12-foot diameter piling that'll be installed next year. So working on that and just kind of progressing through. So looking to start construction about mid-April. Any questions on that?
Say your construction date start again.
Construction is planned to begin mid to late April of next year, depending on ice conditions and so on. Could I ask folks to mute their phones because I'm getting a lot of background? So thank you, that helps. So yes, construction, April 15th target date. We're still waiting on the final schedule. You know, again, it'll depend on the ice conditions and all that, but we're on track so far.
And then
questions about next work.
So you got everything completed for this construction season. Everything's done, and next year the intent is to get it operational by the end of the year. Is that correct?
Correct. We'll have the mooring and breasting dolphins will be installed. The piping over to the POVI will be installed. Completion date next year, November 30th. So about a year from now, we could be cutting a ribbon. Don't want to jinx it, but we could be cutting a ribbon. So very, very happy with that. This past year went. Next year, although it seems like the big stuff is done, is not actually true because a lot of moving parts in next year's work. Piping, the operations building, the hose tower, and so on. So it will be a big task again next year, but I believe the team is up to it. So that's our plan for that. In the meantime, we continue to have discussions with Matson and Tote about the cargo dock work. We have, and Roy can expand on this, we have completed the underwater inspection of the existing piling, and I'll let Roy elaborate on what that report shows. But that will be, that is driving, like everything, our time clock that we've got to get our cargo designs underway. So we're close to final concept alternatives with Matson and Tote, and at that point we'll have the charrette and dial in on the design concept that we'll go forward with. Questions? Okay.
All right.
Jim, do we have everybody here yet?
They're logging on, but they're coming in now.
This is Ames. I wonder if I might ask that Sharon go back and cover the construction start and end dates for this coming year for those people that were not tuned in.
Okay. Okay, in a nutshell, we have reached the substantial completion date on the 2020 scope of work. Some few minor punch list items to take forward, and we're completing that contract is completed for all intents and purposes. We're in preparation for next year's construction work. The mooring breasting dolphins, the piping, the hose tower, everything to make it a functional terminal. And we're doing submittals. Fabrication's begun on the mooring and breasting dolphin piling, and we expect to progress. So somebody's. If you could mute your mics, if you don't mind. I'm getting an echo. We expect to begin construction next year, depending on icing conditions and whatnot, about mid to late April, and continue through November 30th. And substantial completion on this contract is November 30th, 2021, on the final portions of the terminal.
Okay.
Does that answer the questions?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Well, we may come back to you here with those folks that are on here, but first I'd like to capture, well, for informational purposes, we've approved the agenda and the meeting minutes from September 30th for those that missed out. And if we could get, for those of you that are now on that didn't do the roll call previously, could you give us your name and so Diane can document who's all here, please? We'll start with port staff. I know.
Alaska Maritime.
Who is that?
Tom Reuter, Alaska Maritime.
Thank you, Tom.
Casey Sullivan, Marathon.
Brittany Pennington, Alaska Maritime.
Bert Mattingly, AFSC.
Luke Hasenmake, Alaska Maritime Agencies.
Dylan Faber with Matson.
Pat Duffy, Petrostar.
You've got Alex Hofling with Tote.
I also have Anna Henderson with the MOA. I'm the new municipal manager, so hello to everyone.
Tony Davenport, Matson.
Do we have, is Paul with us? Paul Rodkis?
I'd like to suggest we forgo the safety minute so we can keep this moving.
Yep, I just wanted to confirm.
Well, you already went over it, so.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions for Sharon in regards to the PCT construction from those of you that were in attendance previously? Okay. Steve, did you want to continue to postpone your direct?
Mr. Brad.
Yeah, I will hold my comments until my closing comment period, and let's keep moving.
Okay. Did I hear someone else have a question? Okay, moving on. Engineering matters.
Yes,
Roy?
Brad, this is Tom Reuter again.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, everybody that was on the other website only got the last comment of Sharon's, but I hope that's captured in the recording somewhere.
Yeah, I believe it's being recorded, isn't it, Diane?
Yeah, this is being recorded.
Yes, it is being recorded.
Okay, yeah. She gave a summary of pretty much the same information she gave us, but it's available. I'm sure she's available for further questions if you have them. It was just relevant to the PCT construction period and timeline. So with that, we'll move on to Roy, please, on engineering.
Yeah, this is Roy Blaine, engineering manager for the port. So currently we have 15 projects that we're working. 6 of them right now are either in construction or in heavy design. And the rest of them are basically sitting on the shelf getting ready for next year's construction season. Some of the ones of note is currently we're replacing 40 cameras around the port. We have the stevedore building sewer that we're replacing, and we're starting design on the 3 outfalls that were damaged in the earthquake. We did have a project this year that we were jacketing some piles. They closed down for the winter. They'll be coming back next spring to finish that. There's 30 some piles that are being jacketed, and we have hopefully working through the permitting process right now, but hopefully starting the fender repair project, which over the next 3 years will replace all the fenders that haven't been replaced on the dock. One thing of note is we're finishing up the report for the underwater inspection program that we had this summer, where we looked at 1,462 piles underneath the dock, which are all of them that are in the low water zone. I had a meeting with them last week, and they shared some of the preliminary results. It's not a very good picture. All the low water corrosion has eaten a lot of the piles down at the mud line, and they're showing definite severe loss of integrity. So we expect that report to be out around Christmas time. And of course, Steve will be sharing that with multiple people. We're also supporting POV changes and whatnot that will need to happen before the PCT can come up and working that system. So, any questions?
You say that was valve yard, the last one?
Yeah, yep. There's some tweaks that we need to do to the POV to help us increase the versatility of the POL1 for next year's construction season, while POL2 will be out of commission. So we're doing some work there.
I see. So POL2 will not be available for barges next summer. Is that right?
We're working with all with the contract, and there's a lot of people involved, right? Doing scheduling and whatnot there's a certain amount of time, couple weeks, where POL2 will be closed due to the driving of the piles for the PCT.
Can you clarify 2 weeks and what it's closed to?
We're still working that. We're very early in this. We're working with all the tenants, but and the contractor on where he needs to position his barge with the crane and stuff and the driving equipment in order to drive those berthing dolphins. And so I would hate to give you dates and all that because it's a moving target right now. Hopefully we can nail this stuff down in January and February.
Yeah, and Tom, this is Steve. You've been faithfully attending all of the meetings where the conversation. So you probably got as current as information as the rest of us do. But we're moving through this and trying to come up with a plan B for POL1, and we'll see we'll see how that all plays out. But we're not sitting on our hands doing nothing. And as soon as we can get more definition to the actual times it's going to be unavailable, we will certainly share that.
Do we have?
Steve, I appreciate that. And I'll cut my discussion short because I'm in those meetings. Yes, but 2 weeks is very unrealistic.
Okay.
Well, I think we'll have to let the engineers figure that one out for future conversations. Do we have any more questions from the port commissioners for?
Yeah, Roy, this is Paul. You spoke of the underwater survey and that you saw some challenges and some problems, and I understand Steve's going to get this out a little bit later, but was there a specific area that was worse than another, or was it just general that you saw this deterioration?
So the fender pin piles that hold them, there are broken ones, if you will. They're deteriorated at the mud line and they're no longer continuous. So there's those that have actually failed. That's why this fender project is so important. The second area is basically closer you get to the face of the dock, the worse the conditions of the piles are. And so you're actually in the report that you guys, everybody I'm sure will see. There's actually, we did it graphically. I mean, we have a map of the dock and showing the condition of every single pile. So you'll be able to see there's not like, I wish there was like grouping so you could like match it up, but they're kind of scattered all over the place, which is probably a good thing. As an engineer, we don't want groups that fail all at the same time, but it is pretty widespread.
In general, wouldn't it be fair to say, Roy, and I had a chance to look at the draft report, that Terminal 1 is in worse shape than Terminal 2, which is in worse shape than Terminal 3?
Yes, the age of the piles are definitely a factor, and so Terminal 1 is the oldest, and it moves its way through. We actually are at the point where piles that we jacketed 20 years ago, those jackets are actually failing, and the piles are deteriorated in other spots, so that they're failing also.
I see Alex has got a question. Unless if Paul's got a satisfactory answer to his.
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks, Roy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I look forward to seeing the report. Has the report been helpful in guiding jacketing decisions for the 2020 season, or was it somewhat, the timing didn't line up?
Yeah, the timing hasn't lined up to affect the 2020 season. The thing that I did notice when you look at that graphic is that we are getting darn close to jacketing every pile that can be jacketed. There's certain piles that can't be jacketed because of clearances with other piles and how bracing and stuff is done. But we're actually running out of piles to jacket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other commissioners for Roy? I guess I had one question. Are those identified part of the earthquake equation, and is there any money for fixing those that failed because of the earthquake?
Yeah, so we have 7 piles. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have 7 piles left from the earthquake that were damaged and identified that we have yet to jacket, and then we'll be done with that grouping.
Okay.
And
well,
spring.
Okay. I appreciate you raising your hands. If you're not part of the commission, I would like to ask that you raise your hand, and we'll get to you eventually here. But we're moving things forward. Let's move on, unless there's any other commissioners for Roy. Shannon? Thank you, Roy.
Yes. Good afternoon. For operations and maintenance, we've shifted over to winter time. So keeping up on all this beautiful snowfall. I enjoy the winters. Hopefully you do too. Otherwise, we're working hard with the users in the PCT construction season and getting scheduling to the best of our ability figured out in preparation of next summer. Many of you on the call has been a part of that, and thank you for your attendance. And we'll continue working forward on that and iron as much as we can out before we get there. That's all I have.
How are we looking for vessel calls for next year? The cruise, have they notified us on any full cancellations for 2021, or what do we have there for their status?
For the cruise ships?
Yeah.
Cruise ships have been canceled for next year.
Yeah, okay. And any other expected traffic outside of the norm?
No, nothing on the horizon. The only thing that is not canceled is, and forgive me, I don't have the name to memory yet, is one privately owned cruise ship that comes in roughly September. But outside of that, all other cruise ships have been canceled.
Okay. Any commissioners have questions for Shannon? Okay, seeing none. Cheryl, thank you, Shannon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can share my screen with the financial report if we want to take a look at that as a group. I hope that you've all had a chance to review it and, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. There really is not much new and exciting. It's a fairly great looking report. We have the revenues are being collected as we expected, on target. We have our revenue decrease for the cruise ship. I'll remind everyone, shows up in miscellaneous, where you'll see we budgeted 300,000 and we've only earned 100,000. So in addition to the dockage, you'll see some slight decrease there, but that's where the effect of the cruise ships has been on our revenue stream. Everything else looks as we expected. The expenses are tracking as well. What you'll see is legal services is still under budget, and that just is a delay in not a delay, but just the rate of services provided based on the budget that we have. So that's always a number that comes from the municipal attorney. So we just kind of track along and spend that as the expenses come up. So other than that, there isn't really too much exciting on the financial report unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, this is Bob, of course. My real question is under the tonnage. Where it shows the year-to-date is about 90% of what last year was. Will we make up much of that this month or over the last, since this report was at the end of October?
At the end of October, right. We do anticipate that we'll be ahead in tonnage this year because of the increase for petroleum. So as soon as the November tonnage numbers are prepared and ready for distribution, I'll send those out so we can keep track of that and just have a good idea for where we'll end up, and the same at year end.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other commissioners for Cheryl? Okay. Jim, thank you, Cheryl. Jim,
you're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, hello. First of all, let me apologize again for our little glitch with the invitation and the fact that a number of you ended up on the wrong meeting. I apologize for that and hope it wasn't too big an inconvenience. Things to report on the security front. Our security systems are running into, they're getting a little old, so we are in the process of updating our security related servers, and those have to be separate from other Muni servers, so that process is going on. At the same time, we are updating some of our camera systems. We're replacing cameras and updating some of the power supplies on them, so that we should have a more robust camera system in the very near future. And we are reviewing our proxy card system. The proximity card system that we have now, the manufacturer is going to stop supporting it sometime in the next 6 months because it's getting old. And also the Coast Guard and Department of Homeland Security are in the process of changing some of their TWIC card requirements. So we are looking into replacing our current proxy card system with a system that will play better with TWIC. And we should get that spec'd out and have an idea on what that's going to cost sometime in the next month or two. The only other security thing to really talk about is we subscribe to a new service called Alert Media. It's an emergency communications and notification system that we've had running for a couple of weeks now, and so far it's proving to be a useful system. It's very user friendly, and a number of the port users have already experienced it during a drill that we did 2 weeks ago. Basically, it's going to be a new way that we can send messages out via cell phone, text message, email, so that when we have emergency operations going, we can let the right people know quickly.
Is this in lieu of Nixle? Or
It's Nixle, Alert Media are really apples and oranges. So it does what Nixle does, but it really does quite a few things that Nixle doesn't do. It's a more user-friendly system in terms of our managing the databases. It's also a two-way communication system, so that if, for example, I send you a message and say we're having to evacuate the port, please confirm it. First of all, I get a confirmation when you've actually read the message so that I know you've seen the message. And then I can also have, for instance, a response button that says, please tell me when you're off the port. So that if we can keep track of who's gotten the messages, who's responded to them, and who might still be on the port that we have to go find out about.
Is any of this part of the grants, the security grants we received? Any?
This right now, it is not being funded by security grants. It's a subscription. I want to say the price is somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it was $4,500 for a year. And as we move forward with experimenting with it, probably finding some new uses for it, we may then look into other ways of funding it. But it was a small enough, we're really discovering the system now. It's a system that, since COVID hit, has become very popular.
I see. How about on the server or proxy card upgrades?
As far as the server upgrades, we're really taking this in two steps. We're working with the municipality IT department right now to do some short-term upgrades that will get us up to current security standards and make sure our system operates properly. And that may be possible with servers that the municipality already has in stock. Then, when we decide on what proxy card system we want, that will make the determination of what servers we actually buy as a long-term fix. Just because we want them to work together.
Are any of those covered by the grant?
We will pursue a grant for that.
I'm sorry, one more time.
I anticipate that we will pursue some security grants to pay for the proxy card system. But I can't tell you which grant or when until I know what system we want to purchase. So we're in the early process of still determining what it is we need before we can ask for money to help pay for it.
Aves, do you have a question for?
I do. Jim, I presume this will require a reissue of proxy cards?
Possibly. If we get, I believe that the new system is going to be TWIC card compatible, and it may be that, for instance, the truck drivers won't even need to get a proxy card. They'll be able to use their TWIC card as their access card.
That would be good. I'd like to stay abreast of that, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, my goal is to make our wallets thinner, not thicker, meaning we have to carry fewer cards.
Thank you, sir.
Well, as someone who carries about 10 of them, that would be really nice, Jim. And please keep the pilots appraised as well, because I haven't seen a TWIC reader that worked yet. I'll be very impressed if you get one.
Well, the good news is historically, the card reader systems have not played well with TWIC, and they have finally figured out that TWIC is here to stay, and they're starting to play the game better. So on the business continuity front, we are moving forward with our backup security plan, and we are in the process of collecting more power usage information from the port users so that we can refine the plan. We are hoping to have a proposed plan sometime in the first quarter of 2021, and we're working closely with the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense on this. And we anticipate that there is quite a bit of grant money that would help us with this, improve our port resiliency and backup power system. So at this point, I can say more is coming. We are making good progress, but I don't have anything firm I can tell you about yet. And then finally, on the public affairs front, we are working with the port modernization team and the administration to figure out what our legislative strategy is going to be in terms of fundraising. And that's really all I can say right now because we don't have a plan yet.
Okay. Any additional questions for Jim? Anything else you want to share with us, Jim?
Nope. I just want to say again, I'm sorry for the confusion at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. Modern times. Old business.
Well,
Steve,
Mr. Chair, we don't have any old business, but while we've got a short break in the action, I want to, for the record, make sure everybody is aware that we have been joined at some point between the start of this and right now by Ryan Zins from ABI, Casey Sullivan from Marathon, Jeff Bull from Jacobs Engineering, and Mr. Eugene Haberman. So I think that accounts for everybody who's a participant when you add the new names to those that we've talked about before.
Okay. Moving along. Commission actions for introduction and consideration. So with that, we have the Port Modernization Program Surcharge Edition. Mouthful.
Yeah, let me first start by this commission actions for introduction and consideration was an idea that that Brad and Bob came up with as a way of getting out in front of not only the general audience that attends these things, but the commission itself, those items that will eventually have to get voted on by the commission. There's been a sense that we're in a hurry to do these kinds of things, and it makes quite a few people uncomfortable. And I appreciate that. And so instead of just jumping into this and saying, okay, let's vote, we're going to introduce those kinds of items at one port commission meeting. And now the onus falls on the port to pay attention to the timing so that we can give you guys between the port commission meeting where it's introduced and the port commission meeting that follows where there would be a vote. We give you that time to vet it as much as you would care to. And that means that the port staff is open for Q&A. That means that anybody who feels they're going to be affected by whatever it is we're asking you to decide has an opportunity to confer with the commissioners. And then that may generate more questions for us. I don't know. In some cases, it may generate more support for us. Gee, I hope. But it gives us a little bit more time to sort through the details before you guys vote. And the hopes are that there's a higher comfort level when it comes time to make the vote and less concern about things being rushed for the sake of a calendar. And this is one of those times, and this is one of those issues where we have the time to vet this, or you have the time to vet this to whatever degree you would like to. So we're going to introduce it now, and this will be on the agenda under old business for a vote at the next Port Commission meeting, unless Brad, Paul, Bob, you see it differently.
No, very, very good. No, that was brought up in our conversations, and Bob threw that out there, the language out there, which is appreciated, but it pretty much got across what, the challenges we've been facing over time as these budgets get pushed ahead and meetings get put behind and whatnot. So appreciate the port working with us on that, getting it out in front of us. So we have time to vet it, and it's not new information with a short time frame. So thank you for that.
Okay, so now I'm going to do my best to demonstrate that you can teach an old dog a new trick, or I'm going to fail miserably, and I'm going to call on my my staff to cover my backside. Can everybody see that?
Yes, Steve.
Oh, thank God.
Yes.
All right, minor success. So I guess I'll start with kind of apologizing a little bit for what the name is. It's a proposed port modernization tariff surcharge. And what I don't want people to start saying is, what the heck is going on now? I thought we included all of that in the rates when we approved the new tariff 2 years ago. This was about the shortest name so that the title of this wouldn't take 2 lines that I could come up with. But I hope in the presentation that follows, we'll explain what's going on. Okay, here's where we are. And I think everybody may have understood this intellectually, but it may not have sunk in yet for everybody. But we started the PAMP with quite a bit of money that was left over from the old port expansion project that gave us a significant amount of seed money to get the show on the road with respect to the PAMP. The initial high-level design that we all did from the charrettes that were done back in 2012 timeframe. It got us the money to get through the first year of construction for the PCT, and it got us to the point where we could begin the conversations in earnest with the cargo dock users in vetting what needs to be a new approach to what the design for the cargo docks were going to be. Well, if you want to put a date on a calendar, call it December 31st, 2020, but every penny of all of that money that we started the show with will either be expended or encumbered for waiting for a bill to come in to use it to pay for it by the end of this year. And we will have nothing to move forward for the design of the cargo docks. So money's got to come from somewhere to do that. And 50 million is what's going to be required over the next 3 years. And boy, Jeff will jump in if I got that number of years wrong. But 50 million is what we believe is going to be needed at the high end over the next 3 years to mature that design and get it to a point where everybody who's got skin in the game is in agreement that this is what it is we need to construct when it comes to cargo docks. How are we going to do this? Thanks to our friends in the CFO's office and a lot of work that's gone into dealing with the banking community out there, we have two sources of funds that are not grant related that we need to have available to start with, because there have been no current grant opportunities to acquire this money from. So one of them is the short-term borrowing plan that we're about to pay off with the big borrow that we talked about when we set the tariff rates over a year ago, and we'll use that to get started in 2020, and then over the longer haul, apply a surcharge to all the cargo dock users and or benefactors that would cover the cost of the debt service that will come from borrowing the remainder of the $50 million that'll be necessary to mature the design for the cargo dock. And to be fair, with this, we are not going to apply this to anybody who isn't going to be a benefactor of the cargo docks. What's it going to look like when you open the tariff, assuming the commission doesn't make any edits to it, and it goes to the assembly and the assembly approves it. This is where in the tariff it will be codified. And it's not a section 1 item, it's a section 2 item. And we start in the area of definitions and schedule of charges, specifically page 45, where we will add this. There is no small letter I right now. It ends at small letter H, which is the port security surcharge. But this will be letter I, and it reads almost the same. It's, notwithstanding any other schedule of charges, which means this doesn't supersede that which the tariff would impose upon you as a user. This is in addition to. Shall assess a Port of Alaska Modernization Program surcharge according to the amount of cargo, non-cargo goods, and passengers crossing the port facilities. It's pretty general sounding here, but when we go to item 271, it'll be a little more specific. There is no item 271 in the current tariff. So this will be the new item 271. And this is what it will look like following, obviously, item 270 in section 2 of the tariff. It'll read, notwithstanding any other schedule of charges, the Port of Alaska shall assess a surcharge in the amount of a flat $5,000 or $2.70 per ton, whichever is greater, for all vessels calling at the port's terminals 1, 2, and 3. The surcharge will be in effect until such time it is amended or rescinded by either the port director or an assembly action. And absent anybody wanting to change the wording, this is what we are proposing it read like to the commission at this time. And as we mentioned, you've got a couple of months to vet this. And if you think there's a better way of saying it, most certainly. As to the 277 a ton, where the heck did that come from? Parish Blessing and Associates, the group that that did all that tariff work for us, was also given the task of figuring out what was the most efficient, least cost manner in which to raise the dollars that we were going to need to cover the cost of design work for the cargo docks. We all knew we weren't gonna have anything available to get that show on the road in earnest after the end of 2020. So they did they ran the models. They recommended this number. We've ran that number past the two biggest port users with skin in the game, Matson and Tote. And I believe, I'll leave it up to them if they want to comment on it. I believe we have an agreement with them that this is not an onerous, unreasonable number. And when does this go into effect? This goes into effect on January the 1st of 2022, which is why we've got time to wait until your February meeting to vote on this and then get it in front of the assembly with an effective date of January the 1st of 2022. How are we going to handle 2021? The port is going to use that short-term borrowing and cover the cost of the 2021 design work, which is $5 million. That, in a nutshell, is what it is we're proposing. And I guess now's a good time as any to open the floor. I will go ahead and see if I can figure out how to cancel this.
Steve, how does that apply to petroleum vessels?
Okay, and the reason why we put petroleum vessels there, and that's a fair question, is because seems to be a consensus among the petroleum users that in lieu of constructing another petroleum dock, God knows when, that some sort of alternate fuel servicing facility should be added to the cargo docks. What can be discussed at this point is when would you pay your $277 a ton? Because if you're using the PCT or POL1 or POL2 between now and the end of this, then you wouldn't be using the cargo docks and you wouldn't see this charge. Or do we carve out of that $50 million cost that which is estimated to be the cost of developing the design, if you will, and the concept for petroleum infrastructure on the new docks, pin the rose on that number and then figure out a way to surcharge you to do that sooner rather than later, and then have it in the past by the time construction starts. If you've got a recommendation along those lines and you want to make it to the commission, by all means, do that. But know that that 277 a ton number is kind of the magic number, and that's, you know, that's what we need to stick with. For now.
Mr. Chairman, this is Aves.
Yeah, go ahead, Abe.
Steve, would you see that second petroleum facility on the cargo dock as redundancy or added capacity?
No, well, it would be in place of POL2, and then I believe that the way ahead would be that we would, at some point in the life of POL2, it's going to hit a decommissioning point, and we would take it out of service, because not only will we have the petroleum infrastructure on the PCT, we've now got petroleum infrastructure on the new cargo docks. So we don't need a POL2.
So are you saying only vessels calling at the main dock would be given that surcharge?
Yeah.
So if they're
and the only, but the only, the only wrinkle to that I would ask you guys to give some consideration to is how do we do, if petroleum is definitely going to be part of the new the new cargo dock infrastructure, how do we account for, how do we account for what it is we're going to need to cover the cost of that petroleum infrastructure?
And what would you anticipate the variance to be between petroleum and general cargo at that facility? Is an analysis?
Oh, you mean in the future? What are we forecasting?
Yeah, after 2020.
I don't have I think what the, thank you, Jim. I think what the answer to your question, Brad, is instead of all of the petroleum business going to POL1 and POL2 or PCT and POL2, it'll go to PCT and the cargo docks, whichever terminal that infrastructure gets put in. And remember, we are in a position, and nobody's forecasting it to be any different, where even on the current cargo docks, we have a 40% ute rate. So there's plenty of capacity to factor in petroleum deliveries when the cargo ships aren't here. And folks seem to think that that's a doable do, or I don't think we would have gotten the suggestion to consider putting it on the cargo docks as opposed to building another whole new petroleum dock.
Can I ask a question? This is Luke with Alaska Maritime.
You go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, is that, when you say 40% capacity, is that including times it's available only because of tides? Because there's a lot of times we can't even bring a tanker in because of tides. Okay,
the answer is no. I'm looking at how many birthdays per year do I have on the main dock right now. It's, let's call it Terminal 1, Terminal 2, Terminal 3. So it's 3 times 365. That's how many birthdays we've got on the dock. I'm not counting the tides.
And we could maybe help with that, because it does make a huge difference on tides, because there's times we can't even bring a tanker in, and that really kind of limits the availability we get to bring a tanker in to POL1 or 2 because of the tides.
Okay, so I get, and I appreciate that, Luke, and that's going to be good data for the designers to have, and for everybody who's vetting this, because you may have determined for us that, yeah, we really need another dedicated petroleum facility. It doesn't make any sense to put it on the cargo docks and have them fight for optimum tides with everybody else.
Okay,
I mean, now's the time to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see some conflict if you had a cement ship in and.
No, you don't. No, you don't, because the cement ship.
Cement ship's on PCT.
Right. The cement ship's
and
on
it's no
PCT,
different. And it's no different than it is now.
But then the tanker can't go to PCT, and then they, if it's only being charged at the main facility.
Well, I will leave you guys to sort out whether or not it's practical to put petroleum infrastructure on the cargo docks, or go back to the original thought of constructing a new petroleum dock to replace POL2 when we hit that in the phasing of the program. I mean, that's, here we are. For the longest time, what a bad idea it was to build another petroleum dock after we build the PCT. Let's just put that infrastructure on the cargo docks. And it's interesting now that that worm may have turned, but that's why we have these conversations.
Well, I think it's good to just know what the cost would be.
Yeah. But that, yeah, you're right. And that's why we need to have a contribution from petroleum for the design effort to find out what the cost of that is going to be. Just like we need to find out with more definition what the cost of a terminal for Matson's requirements are going to be, and what it's going to cost for a terminal for Tote's requirements are going to be, and which of those two is going to get the petroleum infrastructure. I mean, that's what we need $50 million over the next 3 years to sort out.
Hey, Steve, this is Paul. I just asking for some clarification on numbers. Thanks for that briefing. It was helpful. But so we're looking for $50 million for this increase, right? In 3 years. But the way I understood it, and maybe I didn't get it clearly, was we're going to use for 2021 $5 million. And then that would leave us $45 million for the following 2 years. Did I miss the math there?
No, you didn't miss the math. And I think I wanted to, Jeff and Sharon are still on. And if you want to go to if you guys want to touch on the rationale behind why that's the plan of finance, I could use the help.
Because we're looking at, to me, it's right. So for the design, $50 million for design seems like a lot of money, but that's $16 million a year, 16.5 million a year roughly, right? And if we're only doing $5 million that first year that we're going to support, that leaves a pretty big bump for the remaining 2 years.
Yeah, but it's not going to result in an increase in that surcharge, because the surcharge is not going directly to pay for the design cost. It's going to pay the debt service on what we're going to borrow for the design cost. So even if it goes to 3 years or 4 years for design, nothing's going to change with respect to 277 for design work.
And we're basing our surcharge on historical numbers for what kind of product we're bringing across.
Based on the output from the model that Parish Blessing and Associates did for the general tariffs themselves. I mean, because we don't see the dynamics being any different.
Well, certainly we have a difference with no cruise ships. So, the passengers.
Yeah, but cruise ships against the bottom line, and I think Cheryl even said it, it's a $250,000. It's not a big effect. I can, we're gonna absorb that in what we've saved, on our expense side of the equation this year. I mean, that's in. I'm not going to say it's in the noise. That's unfair, because there are places, but I think in the grand scheme of things, that loss is not going to have an appreciable impact on the mathematics to come up with that number.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, Ron, you have a question, and then Jeff, and then I guess I'd be curious as to what the cost of design for the fuel portion would be. But Ron?
Well, that was my question, is the cost of the fuel portion for the cargo dock. And I also had a question about the design costs. I agree with Paul that 50 million sounded fairly high for design costs, considering we only needed 80 million to finish the PCT dock. So I guess I just wanted to weigh in when it comes to the dual utilization of any of the cargo terminal for petroleum. We already run into conflicts, even though, I mean, the 40% number is kind of pie in the sky. I agree with Luke. There's tide conflicts, and then there's just, schedule conflicts. How many times did we run into conflicts with cruise ships showing up the same day that we got the cargo ships?
Yeah. And this is the this is the challenge we always have, Ron, is we need to respond to those suggestions and recommendations that are being made by the users. And so you guys tell us, we either proceed down the road of figuring out how we include petroleum infrastructure on the cargo docks, or we don't. I mean, just, we'll take the guidance and we'll run with it.
Well, let's see.
What's the lifespan of POL2? I mean, it's the newest dock. Are we looking to replace that? Is that something I haven't heard?
It's eventually going to be replaced as part of the PAMP. And to your other question is, I think Sharon or Roy can speak to this, is it's actually in the worst shape of all the docks.
Okay, I'm going to jump in and suggest that we let Jeff talk about the design cost, and it might answer questions.
Yeah, I think so. You done, Ron?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Jeff, please enlighten us.
Okay, thanks. Can everybody see my screen? I'm not sure if I'm projecting properly or not.
I see it.
Yes,
I see it, Jeff.
There you are.
Okay, so we did gin up a couple of slides. There's this one and this one that runs through how much we need to get us from where we are on phase 2 now through start of construction. So there's no construction money in that $50 million, but this goes through here and itemizes what we think we're going to spend by year. You can see 2021 is somewhere between 3 million and 6.5 million. The difference between those two numbers is whether we go to the Corps of Engineers and redo sedimentation modeling or not. So there's a lot of variables in here, but we were asked the question of how much front end money do we need to get us to start of construction without knowing exactly what our final concept is going to be. So we took the information that we had, we tempered it a little bit to try to just kind of approximate what we were spending. Here you got, for example, the question was how much are we spending on design? So we think the cargo docks is about a $15 million design number. Add to that another $7 million for design management. New fuel facility design and design management, $2 million. And that's not a complete design. That's enough of a design that we know how to modify the cargo docks to accept a future fuel point on the cargo docks. But we can send this out to everybody to go through here and see if you've got any other questions. But I would tell you that a lot of these numbers here, like the cargo docks designer of record, $15 million. For forecasting cost, we've been using 6% of the estimated construction value, which is kind of an industry standard to represent design. And so we use percentages of estimated construction value, and we haven't agreed on a concept, so we don't really know what the final construction value is. But there's been some cost savings identified. We've taken that into account in our calculations to try to be as realistic as we could be. So this gives you kind of the rundown on where this $50 million, how and where it's going to be spent. Is there any questions about the $50 million? Because there's another question about what we analyzed to assess whether we should put a fuel point on the cargo docks or not. And I can talk about that next. But in terms of the $50 million questions?
I see Bob has his hand up. Bob, you have a question in regards to that?
No, I want to talk about a question in regards to the rates and tonnage.
Okay. So we have this breakdown. We can send this out with today's meeting summary. So it gives you an idea of kind of the things that have been taken into account on this estimate of how much we need for the next couple of years to keep us going as we refine the concept. There was another question about the fuel point.
And Jeff, can we clarify this information was presented to the Assembly in an enterprise meeting in July, was it not? Enterprise committee meeting, that's what this original PowerPoint was for?
This PowerPoint that I have in front of me, I wrote for the executive committee. I think that Bill probably took this information and put it into an oversight committee presentation, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I think he
That's
did.
what I'm remembering. Yeah.
Okay. But this information these are out of all of our monthly forecasting and everything. We've just gleaned out the appropriate parts for phase 2 and summarized the cost. So that's how we came up with $50 million, and it's, plus or minus, but it gives us an idea of kind of how much we need to get to start of construction.
Yeah, I think it would be great, Jeff, if you could share that with us, and then we can kind of chew on it with the numbers, the proposed.
You bet.
Yeah, I will make sure that gets sent out after the meeting.
You bet. Yep. So there's that. The other issue about the alternate, not building a petroleum terminal, which was the name of the second petroleum facility, not building that and adding a fuel point on the cargo docks. We wrote a memorandum that summarizes all the issues, and it hasn't been distributed to a wider audience yet. We're just finalizing some things with Sharon and Steve and others, but basically what we found was in our first pass is we think a petroleum terminal is about $180 million construction cost, and we think to add a fuel offloading point on the cargo docks is about $100 million. So it's a significant cost savings. Now, we did an analysis, a berthing analysis, and we allocated every vessel. We took the last 3 years of berthing logs. We took all the landings to POL1 and POL2, and we just assigned them to PCT until there was a conflict. And we pushed things around a little bit. If there was, 2 vessels coming on the same day, and then a big gap, we pushed it off a day. We didn't try to make it ultra conservative. We tried to be as realistic as we could be, but we ran the berthing occupancy up to, I think it was 85%, which is the recommended maximum berthing occupancy on a terminal, because sometimes vessels get held up coming in. There's a mechanical problem offloading. There's things that throw things out of whack. So you use a 85% rule. And then we took all the other vessels, and it gave us a berthing occupancy of about 15%. So, and again, we'll distribute this memorandum that articulates all this stuff, but we could identify how many vessels per year we're talking about that won't fit on PCT. And would that dovetail in between Tote and Matson's landings? We did not take into account any tide consideration. So there's probably a gap in the logic and the analysis with respect to tides. So would really look forward to some input on how to incorporate that into the analysis when we get there. But the bottom line was you cannot get by with just the petroleum and cement terminal. You will inevitably have problems. So you got to build a second fuel point. The question is, do you want to spend 100 million or 180 million? How big is the problem with the tides and stuff like that? So definitely we should distribute that memorandum and then hold an open discussion to get everybody's feedback and input on that. But it's a significant cost savings if we don't have to build a separate petroleum terminal per se. And then that on the cargo docks, theoretically, 5 days a week, that fuel point would be available. So that's what I know.
Okay, well, we have a couple.
I see Paul's hand raised.
Yeah, Paul and Ron. So Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for clarifying some of that. I do have a question. When you were basing the number of vessels going to PCT, was that based on what year's numbers? Obviously, this year and projections for next are substantially higher, nearly double, really, when you're looking at the amount of tankers coming in. And I'm just curious on what you based your 80% on. Was that an average of several years, or was it based on the last several?
Good question. So we took the berth logs from 2017, 18, and 19 and applied that information. So if there's a forecast with increased vessel we didn't factor any growth or forecasted increases in vessel traffic. So we should consider that.
I would. I mean, certainly look, you can look at this year's numbers and the amount of port calls by the petroleum tankers is, like I said, it's nearly doubled. So something to put out there.
Yeah, no. We, I've been on the program for 6 years now, hard to imagine, but the problem that I would love to get somebody's feedback or help on is historically, when we've been forecasting future needs, we've been challenged pretty hard about over designing, over planning. So we have to have some real good backup to substantiate actually planning and designing and constructing for volumes much greater than we currently experience. So really would love to get input from other people to help us argue that point.
Okay, anything else, Paul?
Nope, that was good. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron?
Yeah, hi, Jeff. You mentioned it's 180 million to build a standalone petroleum terminal and 100 million to add it to the cargo dock based on your figures. What did you look at what it would cost to just rebuild POL2?
No. We have the same, it's the same issue of why don't we just rebuild the existing cargo docks? I can't just replace a piling. The piling are in the same or worse condition on POL2 than they are in the cargo docks. So if there's a way to rebuild those by replacing the piling, we analyzed that concept with the cargo docks, and we couldn't convince ourselves that there was a realistic, efficient, and cost-effective way to replace in kind in its own location, if that makes any sense. The piling are rotted out. So,
well, but if you don't replace the dock, you're just going to tear it down and leave a big hole for ice to fill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's not going to work for the new dock, or even for the PCT on the ebb. Maybe, I don't know. I just as someone that's putting ships alongside those docks for many years, I think removing that and leaving a hole there would be a mistake. That's just something I thought I'd bring up.
No, I appreciate that, and I don't understand it. Maybe you can ask a clarifying question. So right now there's a gap of, say, 150 feet between the south end of Terminal 1 and the north end of Terminal 2, whether it's the northernmost dolphin or the platform. But there's a gap between Terminal 1 and POL2 right now. And there will be a gap between POL2 and PCT. But what we're saying
is
is
be a larger gap because they have that 30-degree angle it's required by the Corps for dredging purposes. Won't there be a further gap once they start construction, or has that changed?
Well, that's I guess what my point is. After we build the new cargo docks, if we build a fuel point on it and we abandon POL2 and demolish it, there's like an 800-foot gap there, which the Corps is going to love. It gives them plenty of room to maneuver their dredge through that. It's an 11-degree angle issue that they were so passionate about. It gives you tons of room to work between Terminal 1 and PCT. So could you help me to understand your question better, Ron, about trapping ice in there?
Well, I guess a lot of it depends on whether you're building a new cargo dock along the same profile as where it is now, or if you're bringing it out as had been earlier proposed.
You know, I'm getting concerned that we've morphed off topic pretty significantly, and we've morphed into a design charrette, and I don't think that was the intent of the presentation. But these are all good questions that have to get vetted. If we can afford to hire Jacobs to do the design for a cargo dock, which brings us back to the original point of why we made the presentation we did earlier. Right. Now the good news is that the port is taking care of 2021. We're going to come up with $5 million through the short-term borrowing plan so that these kinds of conversations can continue. Otherwise, if we were having this meeting on January 1st, Jeff wouldn't be here. So we're going to provide the capability to have those meetings. And we've got the time to formulate now what, the answer to the now what question once we get to the end of 2021. And that was the point of giving consideration to a surcharge. And as I mentioned earlier, this is not shocking news to Matson or Tote. We've confirmed in advance of this meeting, since they are going to be the principal cargo dock users, whether we like it or not, for the foreseeable future. And every now and then there'll be a one-off that comes in, and we know that cruise ships won't be part of the dance next year, but you don't know what else will be coming in. You don't know how many times the military is going to bring a vessel in. They're going to, they're going to play too, based on their tonnage. So, long story short, you tell me if you want to turn this into a design charrette, or do we table that for offline conversations?
Well, I see Bob has his hand up, so we'll get to him in a second. I think there's just the ramifications and impact to. I don't think we're so concerned about the tonnage. It's more just trying to figure out the petroleum piece. Seems to be the question. But Bob, go ahead.
Well,
I think what
the petroleum piece is not a surcharge conversation. It's a cargo dock design conversation. Depending upon where you go, either the petroleum guys will be asked to contribute or they won't. At the end of the day, it's still going to take the same amount of money, maybe a little bit less if there is no petroleum piece. But the way to get in front of what it's going to cost to do the design and finish the design is a surcharge of $277 a ton or $5,000, whichever is greater.
Okay, now I'll continue my question. And my question is, could we get the table that was put together at the bottom of Cheryl's presentation on the annual tonnage in the different commodity classes? And can we get those calculated out at $2.77 a ton? Because I come up with less than $5 million in 1 year based on the flats and them alone. So how do we get to $50 million in 3 years at $2.77 a ton based on the statistics that is on Cheryl's sheet? Thank you.
Okay. Cheryl, why don't you go ahead and answer that, and then we'll get to you, Val, after so keep the flow going here.
Okay, so I'll be quick. So the reason that we're able to do that at $277 a ton is because we're going to use the short-term borrowing program. It's essentially a line of credit. So you're not going to recover that $277 to math out to be all of that money. We're going to borrow it as we need it on the line of credit, and then it'll be paid back over a longer period of time. So that structure that we have already set up for the surcharge will be used to repay the debt over more years than what the work is going to be done.
Thank you.
Okay. Val, you have a question, please?
No, just a comment. So thank you, Brad, and good afternoon to everyone. Steve's mentioned a couple times about he's discussed this with us, and I just wanted everyone to be clear that we do support this concept. We think it's the right concept. We think it provides the necessary transparency to the cost, and that provides everybody with the need to make sure that what's being asked for is only that which needs to be asked for and what we can support. So I just wanted to make sure we're clear that we do support it, and not that my silence to his two comments was something different. So thank you, Steve.
Very good. Thank you, Val. How about Alex? I see you have your hand up. So yeah, I would love to hear from Tote.
Hi, good afternoon. Appreciate you guys laying this out. This is the first time that we've seen it. So, perhaps I can get a copy of the deck and review it and comment after I've had a chance. Thank you.
Understood. Okay. Thank you, Alex. Steve, you said it was laid out for everybody. Can you comment on Alex?
No, I can't, except I'm old and thought we did talk about this, and perhaps not the details of it. But yeah, I will send a copy of the slide deck to Alex and let him berate me offline.
Fair enough. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? I guess we probably all have a lot of questions, but anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, this is Aves.
Yeah, go ahead, Aves.
So we're going to vote on this at our next meeting?
Well, not necessarily, but we do have a timeline where we're going to have to move forward so they can recapture the design monies. We just have to figure out how. I don't, this is the proposed version from the port, and sounds like we need a little more information and a little more time to let it digest from what I'm getting.
Well, I guess that's what I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And Aves, this is Bob. That's why we put it in this format of having it introduced, time to look at the different questions. Obviously, the duration of the surcharge was the concern I had in looking at it versus versus what Cheryl explained. But yes, it was the ability to put it out for full consideration versus a rush.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have any further discussion on this at this time? Okay. Thank you, Steve. Public comments. Moving on to the agenda here. Do we have any public comments on anything discussed thus far? Let's see, Bart.
Yeah, I just have a general public comment, not necessarily to the discussion that you've been having. I just wanted to introduce Lieutenant Hadley Owen, who will be taking over for me as the Alaska Navigation Manager starting in the middle of the month. So unfortunately, my time has come to an end, and I really appreciated attending these meetings in the past, and I think you're going to be in great hands with Hadley moving forward.
Oh, thank you, Bart. Where are you heading to?
Executive Officer on the NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer.
Oh, nice.
So it's off the East Coast, so a little bit different scenery, but hopefully I'll make it back to Alaska sometime in the future.
We hope so as well.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Bart.
Thanks,
Good
Bart.
luck.
Congrats.
Bob, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Brad. Hadley, welcome. I was the first one in that job. So you're stepping into a lineage of some very good.
Excellent, yes.
Success for you, Bart.
Thank you for the welcome. And yes, I have heard that I am following big footsteps.
Yeah, thank you, Hadley. Welcome aboard. Bart will be missed, but we appreciate it. Look forward to working with you. Any other public comments at this time?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon. I only want, as on behalf of Alaska Maritime and our position, I only wanted to express the appreciation with the transparency that it has been developing, and I hope that that's continued with the commission meeting and all the related discussions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Anyone else?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Hey, Eugene.
Yeah, it's Eugene Carl Haberman. I'll just be brief. Just a strong recommendation. I know you're all trying to do the best you can and with respect. And this meeting, it would be great. I know you have this audio available, but it's great to have this as a video audio available online. Particularly viewing this thing, you see names pop up if you see the video audio, but you don't see those names pop up if you're listening to audio unless the person's being noted. So I strongly recommend that you find a way to have as a video audio for the public on your website. And thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Eugene. Well, I'll have to defer to Jim on that, on capabilities of the IT.
We can, I think we can make that happen.
Okay. Well, maybe you can give us an update at the next meeting. Okay. Seeing no other comments.
This is Stephanie. Paul Rock is, yes, Paul stopped by, the missing Paul, and delivered this really great thank you gift for my service on the Port Commission. I love it. I just have to figure out where I'm going to hang it, but thank you very much.
Woohoo. That's nice.
Yeah, we wanted you
That's
to know
very
how much,
nice.
how much your contribution was.
Yeah.
Great, Steph.
Hey, Steph, that's a necklace. That's a necklace.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the clocks were taken.
It's really nifty.
But
Thank you very much.
It could be
It really also
too.
shows your strong will, almost your steely will in many of our conversations.
Thank
And
you.
your,
I really
and
love
your
it.
contribution to the many Port Commission meetings. Thanks, Steph. You're
Thank you.
very
Thank
much
you. I
appreciated.
miss you guys.
You're missed as well. We appreciate all your contributions. Very good. Let's see, I don't see any other hands raised here, so we'll move on. Steve, we got Port Director's closing comments.
Yeah, God, do you really want to hear from me again?
Of course.
In the words of Karl von Clausewitz, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. We had such a great thing designed to get this, to make a big fuss over Stephanie and presenting that plaque to her at the early part of this, but technology did what technology does, and here we are. So I just wanted to make sure I got the chance to add my thank yous to Stephanie for her time on the commission. Really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I go to all the Government Hill Community Council meetings, so we don't miss seeing each other on a fairly regular basis, and continuing the dialogue on all things Government Hill and the port. But we appreciate everything you've done, and we appreciate the perspective that you brought to all the matters on the commission, and gonna miss you. So all the best.
Well, thank you very much.
And yeah, aside from that, Brad, I have no other comments. We've taken to heart everything that was said here today, and there's obviously some follow-on actions that need to get done. I'll just state our position one more time. Ideally, we would love to have this issue closed out and in front of the assembly, not at the end of 2021, but sometime in the early first couple of quarters of 2021, and put it behind us. And here's the do nothing solution. The do nothing answer is design is done when the money runs out, and it goes in a book on a shelf, and until money materializes from a source that isn't taxed. That's just the reality of where we are in this day and age, and we've got to take the courageous steps to keep this thing moving, and I hope y'all can appreciate that. And that's all I have to say.
Well, I think we all agree the design needs to move forward. We're just trying to understand the ramifications of the proposed addendum to the tariff, if you will, for that specific piece of design, I guess. Moving on. If that's all you have, Steve, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners' comments. So any of the commissioners have any further comments? I see, Ron, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Down to 5%. I still got 2 hours and a half to drive to Valdez. So I just wanted to thank the port director and the executive committee, or I guess Bob and Brad, for making sure that we got this information as early as we did. I think it's a very good idea to start this this early and make sure that we see as much of this as we can and digest it and have a couple meetings to go over it. It's not really fair to inject public comment prior to the commissioners, getting a chance to go through this. And for that, I applaud the port and everybody who was involved for getting us this information. I'll make sure it gets to the pilots and be sure to try to get to the next meeting so that we can get another tariff set that will assist the PAMP. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Paul, you have your hand up, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just want to give a shout out to the port staff. I think just want to tell everyone, what a really good job it's been in the transparency and working together and looking at next year's scheduling with the PCT and POL2 and how that's going to look. I think that's been one of a really good collaboration of getting the right people together, recognizing we're going to have a real challenge. But I think the communication and the planning that's going into it is really going to save us all in the long run. So I just want to give a shout out for the leadership in making that happen. So thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's going to take a team effort. This is not an easy one to work around.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paul. Andy, you got a comment, please?
Yeah, just briefly, I would second what's been said about getting this out early and to us and vetting the project. So I appreciate that and look forward to working on it with you folks. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Any other commissioners have comment?
This is Aves.
Yeah, go ahead, Abe.
I just want to echo Ron's comments about this early warning, for lack of a better term. Give us an opportunity to look at these things. This is great. I'm also pleased to hear that the PCT project is on track this year, and it looks like it's going to fall into line and become operational, hopefully sometime late in calendar 2021. So good job, folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aves. Commissioners? Well, I won't waste your time reiterating what everyone else has said, but I would look forward to hearing Alex from tote perspective and from the petroleum perspective on the proposed changes there, or additions, I guess, to cover the design phase. And I think it's great the port's looking at both options, the dock vault, if you will, for the petroleum facility versus a new facility. And sounds like there's, we don't want to get into the charrette thing, but design issues, which are going to have to be worked out with that 50 million. So that's all good, and we're moving forward. And I look forward to, like Aves commented, seeing more dock construction going on and getting over some of these issues we've been dealing with for so long. With that, and again, Bart, thank you, and Hadley, welcome. We'll miss you, Bart. You've been a great addition, and a lot of information for us on that regard. And so with that, we'll have to look at the meeting schedule for moving forward. I don't think anybody wants anything in December. So that to January.
Yeah, remember the reason why we did it today was there was no time when we usually do it in November because of the holiday schedule. So we've slipped into as early in December as possible for the meeting that would have normally been held in November. So we're going to do the same thing again. And if we're going to move this, it would be an early, like February 3rd sort of meeting.
Gotcha.
Unless you want to do the 20, yeah, I don't think anybody wants to do the 27th of January. Would get you kind of sort of back into the same month rhythm.
Let's see. Yeah, end of January, early February works better for me. I would be good February 3rd.
I'm good for the 3rd. This is Aves.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
we
good
can
for the
make the
3rd,
3rd
Andy.
happen. This is Bob. I'm good for the 3rd, but I would like to see us have some additional information to quell some of these other questions by mid-January. So we have some background information on the petroleum issue.
Yeah, I think that'll be up to us working with the port.
Yeah, you will get that as soon as possible. So, ideally you'll have it before Christmas and you can chew on it all the way up to February the 3rd. Yeah, it's, yeah, as Jeff had said, it's close to publication as it stands right now. So there's no reason for us to sit on it and wait.
Okay. Anyone else have comment on February 3rd? Otherwise, we'll go with that. Okay. Seeing no others, let's shoot for February 3rd, the next meeting. And if you're still there, Stephanie, thank you for everything. And hopefully maybe we'll see you on some more of these meetings, or at least around town once things open up again.
This is Jim. Can I add one note?
Yes, please, Jim, go ahead.
For anybody who's interested, we had McDowell Group do a petroleum usage projection for us, and that is available on the homepage on the website. If anybody's looking at what the projections are for Port of Alaska's petroleum business into the foreseeable future.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds like some good information for us to look at. With that, unless there's any other comments, we'll adjourn.
Just for the holidays.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone.
Yep.
Be
Merry
safe.
Christmas to everybody.
Stay
Yes.
safe, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Take care.